the funny story, and I tell the story to so many people that I meet, and they ask me how I got to where I am right now, going through the police department and going off to college or whatever. And a lot of the times, actually almost every time, that story, you play a large part in that story, because I have to bring out this fact that the only reason that I went through and joined the police department was because I met up with you at college.
Really?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. I don't know if you remember, but when I was going to college at UNLV, so backtrack for everybody listening, we were high school classmates, graduated, we went our separate ways, and we were in the same clique in high school, went our separate ways. I went to UNLV, and you went off to Embry-Riddle. 2 years later, I'm walking through campus at UNLV, and who do I see going through a tour of the campus? You. I was like, hey, Tony, what's going on? Hey, what are you doing? So met up with you there, and at that time, you told me that you were going through, you had finished Embry-Riddle, you had gotten like your pilot license or something,
Right.
and you had come back to, or you had come to UNLV to finish out your bachelor's degree.
Right.
And you were going to get it in criminal justice.
Right.
At the time, I was going there for business, and I sucked at it. I was a business major
In
to begin
business,
with.
really?
Totally, which is funny because my whole goal to begin with was to own a hockey equipment company.
Okay.
Yeah, flash forward 20 some years, and I actually do own a hockey equipment company. But nonetheless, I was having the most difficult time going through the math classes for business management.
Okay.
I could not grasp it. I was failing math. Meet up with you, and you're like, hey, yeah, I'm going for this. I'm going to go through college and get my criminal justice degree, and then I'm going to go back home to Hawaii and join HPD because that's where my brother is, and he's having a great time, and they have a great schedule, and they have all these benefits, and blah blah blah. And you're basically recruiting me to go follow you along. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I started to look up what it took to get a criminal justice degree, and lo and behold, it was like basic math. I was like, oh, dude, I can totally do that. I think the highest math we had to do was like statistics or something, which is to me isn't really math at all. So I was like, oh, dude, okay. So I changed my major because of you. I changed my major, and because of you, I changed the direction of my life and actually followed you to come home to join HPD.
And you never shared this story with me.
I
This
never
is like
did?
the first time that I'm hearing
Okay.
this story.
Great.
Come from
That's
you.
where we're at. Okay. So the story goes on. We graduated around the same time, 2020. No,
December
2000
December of 2000.
Okay. So
December of-
for me, December 2001.
No, you stayed.
No, I took an extra year.
Okay.
I totally took an extra
I
year.
was done December of 2000.
Right. And you came home.
No, I still stayed in Las Vegas. I still remained in Las Vegas.
For the whole year. You came
Yes, I
home
did.
before I did. You came home like a whole year before I did and applied to join HPD.
Correct.
And something happened personally where you didn't make it through the complete process.
The first
first
time.
time.
That's why I stayed in Vegas that first time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in 2000.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah. So in 2000, my father had. I take that back. In 2001, was my father had passed away. Right. Because we got into the police academy December 5th of 2001. Am I correct?
2002.
Okay, 2002.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm right on the time. My father passed away in December of 2001.
Okay.
I was supposed to be accepted at that point into the Honolulu
Right.
Police Department. I was 22
Yeah,
at the time.
we were like 22.
And I think that was a time from the police department where I probably wasn't really mentally prepared to go through because my father had passed away. So I decided to stay back in Las Vegas and then continued working. And then at that point, there was a decision to now make my way back home to Hawaii. And then I had reapplied for the police department right after and then got in the same time. We both got in at the same time. In
Well,
December 5th.
that's like the second part of the story. It's like, okay, we went from high school, separated, found each other again in college, separated, and then I came back I stayed an extra year after college, and then I just worked, built up income, came back to Hawaii, and applied for HPD. And this was before cell phones and everything like that, right? We didn't have our phone numbers. We were not in
No,
contact.
we weren't in contact at all.
So I go through the application process and I get the letter, hey, show up to Kalahui Middle School for your testing.
Right.
So I show up early because I know, hey, I'm going to be the first person in line.
Right.
And I show up, and who the fuck is the first person in line?
You showed
this
up.
guy.
And I showed up.
Yeah, you're the first person in line. I'm like, hey, what are you doing here? It's like, you were supposed to be like in the department already. Like, what happened?
Right.
And I think that's kind of where you totally started telling me the gist of, you know, what happened with your father and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, okay. So we take the test together, go through the entire application process together, and we were staying in contact.
Yep.
And we actually got into the police academy together.
Correct.
So when we kind of stayed together for that period of time.
Right.
And then, as we're in the police department, I remember
we're about 3 weeks into the academy, or 3 or 4 weeks into the academy,
and we were doing rolls, forward rolls and backward rolls in the judo dojo that we had at the police academy, and we'd done a bunch of rolls, and we're standing there in formation, and you're in the line to my right, off to the back a little bit, one position back, and I just see you out of the corner of my eye, just boom, face plant. Right in the mat.
Right.
And I turned to look. I was like, "Oh crap! What happened to Tony?" And you just like shot up. You're like, "Oh, what happened? What happened?" And like the instructors came and like grabbed you and pulled you out of class. And it turned out you had
shingles.
So they had to.
And it was like chickenpox because I never had chickenpox before.
So they had to like medically disqualify you for that class.
Right.
And recycle you to the next class.
Correct.
So here again, we're separated, and I go through the police academy. And then you go through the police academy and then following recruit
class right behind you.
Right. Which, I mean, okay, that's not splitting up too much. But then what happened after that was that I graduated and I eventually make my way through training and get assigned to Kalahui, District 5. Of course, a year later, who comes along to District 5?
I come along into District 5.
That guy. Yeah. And so from there, we ended up being actual beat partners in the same beat for what, 5 years or so?
About 5 years.
Yeah.
About 5.5 years.
Groomsman at my wedding. Yeah.
Yes.